What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time progresses. I'm also going to give you guys some predictions for how the market may end up moving as time goes on. And I'm going to be talking about some important data that's coming out and how it may affect Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. But before I bring in these all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. We put in $500 into the account, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data, which can be very beneficial for trading. If you put in $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 70 free stocks plus 12 months of free level 2 data. Once again, very, very beneficial tools. Anyways, now let's talk about the market and how things are looking. I just want to mention that there's a very interesting trend on SPY. We're seeing a slight divergence between SPY and the NASDAQ. However, there's nothing confirmed when it comes to breakdowns. So what's the trend on SPY? Notice how this thing is just continuing to make higher highs and higher lows. There were instances where we got tiny little pullbacks, but only to get bought right back up every single time, whether it's Jerome Powell pumping the markets or something else. But the question is, will the market pump more? What levels should we be watching for to determine that? And if the market does pull back, where is support going to likely try to hold it? What is likely going to happen given our next circumstances? So for our economic calendar, tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the factory orders data coming out, which is important for manufacturing and how the overall demand is looking. This is going to be quite important. Could cause somewhat of a move, but nothing too crazy in my opinion. But I think at 11:30 a.m. is where we may see some more volatility thanks to the 3 month and the 6 month bill auctions. So we'll see if that causes anything. As of right now, the market's holding up nicely. There's nothing too crazy happening with earnings. We just have like GitLab and a couple of others for Monday. For Tuesday, we have like Neo and AutoZone and just more retails coming out there. We also have GME announcing earnings on Wednesday. So nothing too crazy for this week in terms of earnings. And our fear and greed index is still on greed, not at extreme greed yet, but it is getting closer and closer. Other indicators are already at extremes like market momentum. If you look at other things like our breadth, that's actually at greed. But then the put and call positionings at extreme greed, getting very close to those insanely low levels, which is just showing once again a big shift in the market and the current sentiment. So, what does this mean for the markets? Do I think there's going to be a big pullback? Here's my response to that. Okay. So, what has the market been doing? It's making higher highs, higher lows. And like I showed you guys yesterday, there was so much shorting going on SPY, and they're continuing to be more and more puts expiring every single Friday. We're seeing very high puts to call ratios just for SPY specifically. As a result, we're continuing to see the market squeeze and we're continuing to see the market uptrend. Okay. But could the market pull back? Yes, there could be a tiny pullback, but every single time we get these tiny little pullbacks, right, we saw SPY drop just like a few days ago, just a little bit, right here, for example, right here. Every time it happens, we just get bought back up, and the pullbacks have been very, very minuscule. However, if you want there to be a big, big, big pullback like this, whoops, let me fix this. For example, right, if you want to see this thing just sink like this, just for example, we need a catalyst. We need some very bad piece of news to be announced, and then SPY could sink like this. As of right now, there's no bad piece of news that has come out to cause the market to crash like that, to see a much bigger drop. I'm not seeing any catalyst yet. I'm not seeing any piece of news to really cause that. And as of right now, the trend has been SPY basically drops a little bit. We get these tiny little pullbacks only to get bought right back up. So if that trend continues, we could see the red uh, possibility play out where we just drop a little bit towards our support right over here on SPY at the 455 level before we just continue higher. But if we break 460, then we're going to be bullish because when you look at SPY on the weekly time frame, so the 4 hour has a bullish PPO crossover. The daily also has a bullish cross. It hasn't crossed to bearish yet. Even though we are a little bit overbought, we haven't truly gotten a bearish cross yet to turn bearish. And then on the weekly, I just want to call out, instead, we actually just got a bullish crossover, and the weekly looks bullish because we have a nice cup and handle, and we're going to be approaching 467 soon. So, how would I interpret this? And my answer is if we do get a small pullback, we're eventually going to get bought back up, and SPY is eventually going to break out. If we manage to break and hold 460 and we continue to hold 460, we're going to launch to at least 467 to 470 pretty soon within 1 to 2 weeks. With that being said, the chart still looks bullish on the weekly. There's no sign of this breaking down. So, in my opinion, there were a lot of moments where I had to be logical. I was telling you that the market was just pumping so much. I was thinking there might be a pullback. Instead, we didn't get it, and Jerome Powell pumped the markets more. So you want to be open-minded. You want to be very patient. Could the market fall? Yes, but wait for confirmation. Wait and see if we break particular supports before we turn more bearish. Wait and see if we break resistance to turn even more bullish. But right now, we're about to test some critical resistance. All right, so going into tomorrow, make sure you watch 460 as critical resistance. If SPY could close above that, if we break and hold that, we're going to be really bullish. This thing could just continue going. Even though the market's so overbought, there's a lot of manipulation. If you look at the options chain, there's so much trickery, there's so much stuff going on. And you want to just be open-minded to that, guys. As crazy and as illogical as it sounds for me to say that the market could go higher, it could still happen. It kept doing that, right? They know what we're thinking, so you just want to be prepared. So watch 460. If you break that, we're bullish. Watch 458 as support. If SPY retraces a bit, if we fail to break 460 on our first attempt and we come down to 458, we have to try to hold that support. Because if we lose 458, we have a risk of coming back down towards this 455 area to retest this trend line right here, this orange trend line. And then we could kind of shop around here and then bounce. And this is where they're going to reaccumulate and grab some liquidity. Okay, so these are the two main possibilities. We could actually get a rejection off 460, come back down to reaccumulate, and then push up higher. So far, the pullbacks have been very tiny, and then the upside has been much stronger. So, as of right now, I assume that trend is going to continue, but I will change my view if there's a massive bad piece of news, then yes, we could come back down to much lower levels. As of right now, there's no sign of that, so I can't make the assumption just yet. Okay, so I want to wait. If there's an announcement that like Fitch is downgrading the US's rating, or something like really bad happens, another war, yes, I could change my view. Right now, there's no news that came out that says that. So the most likely possibility would be if we do get some kind of pullback, it's going to be minuscule, and then the buyers will just eventually take full control and push SPY back up even higher for the next few weeks. And if we just break 460 on the spot, then we're going to be even more bullish. We'll just keep going. So we look bullish overall, but we'll see if there's a minuscule pullback or not. And then we'll also wait and see if there's any really bad piece of news to give the bears a bigger victory for the week. As of right now, there's no sign of the market pulling back yet. SPY is holding up very, very nicely. Okay. On the QQQ, this is looking a little bit weaker than SPY, but there's no sign of a breakdown yet. So don't assume it's going to break down for no reason. You have to wait and see. So the PPL is about to get a bearish crossover. It came close. We haven't officially done it yet. And remember, they could try to trap investors. So you want to be careful. Right now, this thing was about to turn bearish. It got bought right back up. If it breaks 391, watch 390, then 391 is resistance. If it gets above 391, this could turn even more bullish and start breaking out. If it loses 388, okay, watch 388, we could turn bearish and come back down towards the 386 support. Okay, so what would I say that this is bearish? I would say that it looks like it's losing momentum. It's looking weaker than SPY, but there's no sign, there's no confirmation of the QQQ breaking down yet. Okay, there's no confirmation yet. You want to see if support breaks, if it continues to look weak. It came down and got bought right back up, so we'll just have to wait and see. If it tries to break above 391, it could just be a trap. This thing could continue to uptrend. And overall, I would say on the weekly, it still looks bullish. So what does this mean? If there's a tiny little pullback that comes, it's going to get bought back up because the weekly is bullish. And at the end of the year, I think it's going to be back to 400 plus. Uh, if if we don't get much of a pullback, if we continue to hold up, then it could just keep going. What do I think is the most likely possibility? Just like SPY, if we get a rejection here, there could be a little pullback to like 388 before they try to reaccumulate and start pushing it back up higher. Or what could happen is, it's a very, very minor pullback. We just hold up and we just keep going. But I'm not going to turn bearish on this. I'm not officially bearish until we break and end up holding below 388, excuse me, and then 386. We have to wait and see if that's the case. If that's the case, then I will turn bearish. We need a catalyst first. We'll just have to wait and see. For Nvidia, this is looking quite decent, okay? Nvidia has been holding the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. If we lose the 200 EMA, this 463 area, I turn bearish. I think we're going to be sinking back down towards 460. We need to close below it, and that's going to be our bearish confirmation for Nvidia to turn bearish. To be bullish, you want to see Nvidia hold above this and start pushing up higher and try to get back above 470. If it achieves that, I think it's going to be making its way back up towards this imbalance on the 4-hour time frame at 480, and that's what I think Nvidia is going to do. But right now, it's actually curling on the MACD. It's holding support. So it looks like it might try to bounce and might actually catch a lot of people off guard since there's so many people shorting. So many people are expecting a crash. This could just be a trap. So make sure you're prepared for this. All right. So we have the bearish case. Make sure you watch support. We have the bullish case. What do I think is more likely? As of right now, it's holding support. It came down quite a bit. We actually saw this thing drop almost 40 points or more than 40 points from the high. So I think it actually might try to balance and make its way back up towards this 474 area. And it might actually try to push up a little higher, which could help the QQQ hold up. So make sure you watch that very carefully. I think the odds favor that, but just watch support at the 4-hour 200 EMA just to be safe. Tesla's looking very nice to me because although Tesla came down, we saw the buyers defend it and we saw Tesla come right back up. So looking at Tesla, I'm going to actually delete these like lines I have because we don't have to worry about these. But what you'll notice is that Tesla's making higher highs and higher lows. And when you zoom out on the daily, this thing is continuing to look bullish overall. Tesla's also the most shorted stock on the market, or one of the most shorted stocks right now. So with this thing uptrending, it may just continue to uptrend from here. So if you want to be bearish on Tesla, okay, if you want to turn into a bear, here's what you want to see. You want to see Tesla get some bad news. A bad piece of news has to come out, and Tesla has to not only break this trend line, we need to lose 232. If we lose that, 230 is our last sign of hope. If we lose that, this thing is going to sink all the way back down to fill the gap, all the way down to the low 220s. That's going to be your bearish case. So it's very, very important that we watch our support way down here, this 230 area and then 232. Those are two critical supports for the stock. Now, if Tesla continues to hold up, and I think that this is more likely, right? We could get a back test right here, back down to like the mid 230s, and then bounce. And we have an imbalance to fill at 245. We could try to fill this imbalance up here and just slowly, slowly uptrend as time goes on. That's the more bullish case. I believe that on the chart right now, there's no sign of Tesla truly turning really, really bearish. There's no sign of that yet. And I think that it's going to likely try to uptrend as time goes on. The odds are favoring that, looking at the fact that this thing is continuing to hold support and the buyers are continuing to come in, and the fact that Tesla is the most shorted stock or one of the most shorted stocks in the entire market. So, in my opinion, going against the crowd tends to work a lot better, and there's a good chance that Tesla may continue to uptrend. I also want to call that out because on the 4-hour we're curling very nicely. We're holding just like Nvidia. We managed to close above our 200 EMA, which is a good sign. And when you look at the daily charts on Tesla, the daily is looking bullish thus far. We actually have not gone a bearish crossover on the PPO yet. We have to lose 230 to turn bearish. We haven't done that yet. We're continuing to get bought up. The weekly is also looking quite bullish on Tesla. We're about to get a bullish crossover on the PPO. We're getting closer to it, and we're getting some good volume. So I would say that it is possible Tesla drops a bit towards 236 or so, but it might just get bought right back up. We might see buyers try to push it back up to 245. And later on down the line, we might see this thing just get bought up even more. The trend is looking quite good with a nice cup and handle, and now Tesla's starting to show some life. All right, so that's my view of Tesla. I think that overall it's bullish for the end of the year. If we get a small little pullback, make sure you watch those supports. We could see some liquidity being grabbed at the mid 230s, but I think the odds favor this thing bouncing and catching a lot of shorts off guard. If you look at Apple, and this is going to be one of the last ones I talk about, Apple is actually holding up decently on the weekly. We look like we want to test 197, which could drag the market up. However, the thing about Apple is it's very shaky because of the fact that it was coming down quite a bit. We got a small pullback on Apple, but we're approaching our next resistance. So watch supports right now around 188. You want to hold that quite nicely. If we lose 188, this could turn a bit more bearish, and we could see this thing start sinking back down towards the gap fill at 185. 188 is going to be critical support. That's where Apple has been holding up. For resistance, make sure you're watching 191.5. If you get above that, there's 192 that's coming. Then we have 192.5, followed by this next resistance up here. I think we might see Apple drop a little bit. They might try to grab a little bit of liquidity over here on this 190 area, might shop for some time and then start pushing back up higher because the weekly looks bullish. And I think that it's just going to try to break out. And I think that it's going to catch a lot of shorts off guard again. So as of right now, it's holding up. Might come down a little bit, but I think the buyers will defend it. Might shop for some time and be range bound before it starts to break out again. And we could see this thing try to get closer to the high 190s by the end of the year. So it looks bullish overall. Could we get a tiny little pullback? Yes, but as of right now, the pullbacks for most stocks have been quite minuscule, with some exceptions such as Nvidia. And it looks like the upside is where these market makers are trying to go to just to squeeze more shorts and to catch more people off guard. So that's what the odds favor. One stock that's looking bullish is the IWM. We've got a bullish crossover on the PPO. This thing looks bullish. Looks like it's going to try to get to the high 180s now after getting a very big breakout. Weekly looks bullish. I think it's going to keep going for this imbalance, could get to the high 180s very soon. For AMD, this is also looking quite decent. It came down a little bit. It's not on the weekly, so it might actually pull back towards this like 117 area before it tries to bounce. But I think that ultimately they might try to fool more investors as we have like an inverse head and shoulders like pattern that's forming. I think it's going to try to make its way up to 130 towards the end of the year. It might pull back a little bit. We could see it pull back just a bit towards 117, but I think it's going to hold and try to bounce and start pushing up once again. On top of that, when you look at the VIX, unfortunately, the VIX is showing no signs of breaking up. It actually looks bearish on the weekly. So this could be a bullish signal for the markets. So be very careful. This could just catch more people off guard. The weekly on the dollar is also looking kind of flat. It made an attempt to break out, but it failed. We got a bearish crossover. And we also have this very important EMA at 100. To the 200 EMA is at 100. So it still looks kind of weak to me. This wasn't a very, very nice bounce it got, and it's still looking not the strongest. So it's very important to note this. Coinbase is looking bullish on the weekly, but it is overbought. So look for a little retracement and wait for it to base before this thing slowly tries to uptrend. With crypto taking off, this is just in a very good state, especially because of what's happening with the SEC. Look for a little pullback. It might actually backtest this breakout area right over here around this like 120 area if we lose 133. So we could see a small retracement. It could actually come back to like 122 or so, then come right back up. But overall, the chart looks bullish on the weekly, so look for a little pullback and some more upside later on. For Google, this is looking kind of weak right now on the weekly. We might see Google retrace a bit more. Watch for the 131.26 test to 130. If we lose that, I think that it might retrace a bit more and then it might try to bounce around 130 and try to make its way back up. But Google's looking a little weaker. It could pull back just a bit more. Amazon's looking kind of indecisive, very flat right now. Watch 150's resistance, watch support at 143. Could retrace towards 145 before this thing tries to bounce. But ultimately, on the weekly, I think that Amazon's going to try to break out higher. I think it's going to eventually try to make its way up towards 158 later on during the year. Might pull back first before we get some kind of breakout, but Amazon's looking kind of like flimsy compared to other stocks. Meta's looking kind of flat, looks a little bearish. We might see this retrace a bit more. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 320 being retested. If we lose 320, there's a risk of it coming down to fill this gap at like 116. 316, and then bouncing off that. So look for a little retracement before this thing tries to bounce, but it's looking a bit more bearish for now. So some stocks do look kind of bearish, but a lot of them are still holding up nicely. So we'll be watching the charts very carefully. Do not go crazy and assume that the market's going to crash super hard just because you've been pumping so much, because there's so much trickery in the markets. They want to trick you. They're doing crazy things. They're trying to stop your indicators from working. It's all trickery. So that's why I'm taking a very unbiased stance. I'm going to say that the market looks bullish for the end of the year. We're not at the end of the year yet. We have a few weeks left. Okay. So we're going to likely pump for the last 1 to 2 weeks of December. For the next 1 to 2 weeks, however, it is possible we kind of like cool off a little bit here and there, but the current trend has been being made with very minuscule pullbacks and more buying that ends up overwhelming it. For there to be a bigger pullback, we need a bearish catalyst. As of right now, we don't have that catalyst. So it doesn't make sense to turn to a mega bear until we get that catalyst. All right. Non-financial advice, by the way. So make sure you watch your levels and just know that the overall trend on the market has been bullish. We're going to likely see another attempt to break out. The market does not look like it's done quite yet. All right. I just want to be honest with you all. Okay. My view has shifted a lot after what Jerome Powell caused. And that has more to do with us, it has less to do with just the day in itself, but the levels we ended up breaking out of and the resistance we broke. That is what's leading to this breakout. So there's no sign of this ending. So do not turn too bearish until we get confirmation from a break of support. That's my point, guys. I think Tesla is going to end the year strong too. I think that if it does get a little retracement, we could see it retest like the mid 230s for more liquidity to be grabbed. But I think that the weekly is curling, and I think Tesla's going to eventually try to make its way back up to higher levels and squeeze a lot of shorts because it's once again insanely shorted. All right, I hope my view is clear, guys. I know it upsets a lot of people to hear things like this, but I just want to be as unbiased as possible. I want to be as honest as possible. And thus far, the market has done the most illogical things. It's very overbought, but once again, that doesn't matter because those market makers know what we're thinking and they have plans at hand to trick as many people as possible to make money off of them. All right, that's my honest view. Thank you all so much for listening. Please remain unbiased and be very careful in a market like this. And just know that the overall market is still looking bullish. Could we pull back a little bit? Yes, but overall, we look more bullish. And we need a big catalyst to bring the market down. We need something big to happen. As of right now, we don't have that. All right, that's my view, guys. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, this video was helpful. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning. Thank you all so much. Enjoy some football. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, and peace out.